Hi Anish,
Hi Bharat.
how you go? Hi Anish,
Hi Bharat.
how's it going?
All good, yaar, you say?
I'm good. Thanks for finding the time to come shoot this podcast with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Please tell us, what do you do?
I am a video producer. You can also call me a filmmaker. I've been producing video content for good 16 years now. And I have my own company which produces content for, corporates, businesses, brands. And then I also co-founded another company which does wedding films under the name Happy Flashbacks.
Amazing. 16 years.
16 years, yes.
God.
We started with television production, but then moved into corporates.
Amazing. Amazing. How did your journey start? Did you get into filmmaking straight out of school or?
So I was in Australia, Melbourne, doing my bachelor's. And, over there with my housemates, we used to watch a lot of content from various parts of the world. Everyone would have their offerings. Ke, yaar, ye movie dekhte hain. This is something very different. And that is where, I kind of developed this interest of, directing movies someday. And we used to discuss a lot. We used to see, from different perspectives. And while I was in my last year, I took a lot of electives. So I took a lot of digital filmmaking subjects that was offered to me. Once I did that, again, my inclination towards being a filmmaker kind of, it increased. So I came back to India and then I did this small diploma in production and direction. Because I did well, I was offered an internship in a video production house. They were producing content for national television channels over there. And yeah, that journey kind of, ensured that I continue this.
It sounds like before you actually got work in the industry, you spent a lot of time in education. First, you did your bachelor's and master's, and then a diploma, and then an internship, which is also an education of sorts. Now, there are filmmakers who enter the industry with a lot of educational background, and there are some who enter with absolutely none. What's the biggest difference you find in the two types of filmmakers? And if someone's aspiring to be a filmmaker, should they go get an education?
See, it's very subjective. I'll ask you, say, if you are hiring, someone in your company and both are equally good with their work, you see their work, you really can't differentiate. I mean, there can be a little bit of 1 or 2%, 5% differentiation. One has done, learning on his own through YouTube or whatever platform he had access to, and the other went to the film school and did it. What will be your choice? Who will be your choice?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
I would, if the quality of their work is difficult to tell the difference between, I would choose someone who's easier to work with personally.
Let's say both are equally easy. You have to pick one. Who would you pick?
It wouldn't matter to me.
Okay.
Honestly, it wouldn't.
Okay.
Because I am looking for someone who can get me where I want to go. Like, let's say we're robbing a bank, okay, and we need a getaway driver. Then does it really matter if that driver has a driver's license or not? Like, it really doesn't. We're robbing a bank, So I'm looking for someone to steer my ship, and if they can steer my ship just fine, then I'll take them.
Okay. To me, I'll hire someone from the film school simply for the reason because they've been taught to work in a team environment. So someone who's gone to the film school, I'm not saying they've learned more. So the whole question कहाँ से आता है? ये आता है कि उसने खुद सीखा है. That guy has learned on his own, and this person went through a film school and learned. Is film school worth? Yes, it is worth. The whole idea is you get more disciplined. You work in a team environment. You know your jobs well. Someone, basis on my experience, who's been sitting at home learning, is more tuned to doing things on his own and may not be the right choice to work in a team at that given time.
Okay.
He needs to learn to work as a team. See, filmmaking is not a one-man show.
Right.
If you want it to be a one-man show, then आपकी growth रुक जाती है.
Okay.
Right? Growth तभी होती है when you work as a team, when you synergize with other players and then you grow. Also, your learning grows when you work with other filmmakers, DPs. They're going to offer you something which you don't know. And that has always been the case. Right? So I would go ahead and hire someone who's actually done a film school simply because he's worked in a team environment. He's learned the discipline of it because someone sitting at home may not.
Interesting. Interesting. That's a perspective I wasn't aware of at all.
Chalo, good. I was able to offer something new.
Why did you come back to India? Like, you finished your education in Australia. Why didn't you continue working as a filmmaker in Australia?
So, in one line, that was a mistake. That's one of my regrets, honestly. The whole reason I came back was because of my family emotional stuff that was happening. You know, parents and my mother was very emotional because my brother, elder brother, during that time also went to London for his MBA. And parents were alone, and specifically my mother, who was real, emotional into it, that you should come back. I took the residency also, but I didn't continue. And I thought, I'm going to do stuff in India as well. Having said that, the right path, which I till date believe, and it's been good 20 years now, would have been that I probably would have gone ahead, did my master's either in US, which is the hub of filmmaking. That is where everything started. Or probably would have come back to Delhi and would have gone to Mumbai, Pune. Pune, you have FTII. I would have at least tried and applied for it. It's very tough to get into it. At that time, they used to have 8Cs. So, yeah, I didn't do it because I wanted to be in Delhi. Probably, I'll say it was more of a comfort zone emotionally and, physically. Being with your parents then was probably the reason. Else, I wouldn't have, and I shouldn't have. If someone has this opportunity to go study further, try your best to do it at an institute or a university which will, further enhance your skills.
When you started working in Indian media, what was your experience like? What did you learn about the way things are done in the industry here?
So initially I was working with all the channels, and Z being the main client to our production house. First entire year I was fascinated. I was asked to report on a location somewhere in rural areas outside Delhi at 3 o'clock in the morning. And just because before the light sun rises, I should be able to set up with the team. So the first year was challenging, but because it was challenging, it was very interesting for me. I really enjoyed. But later on, as my designation grew, I was handed over more responsibilities. That is when I started discovering that there are areas where you keep learning, but majority of the places your learning stops because the whole thing about television is it's purely money driven. See, the whole reason I entered into filmmaking, they're not inclined towards the money. मैं अपनी generation की तो बात कर सकता हूँ. Money may be a driving force for a lot of people, but during our time, there was no YouTube, there was nothing. It was purely films and it was purely passion. When I started first year, I was learning, I was enjoying, everything was new to me, regardless of what I learned in the film school. Real world experience, real world challenges, improvisations, they teach you a lot, and that keeps you going. You're learning, you'll always grow. You're growing, you'll always enjoy. You'll always feel good when you sleep in the night that you've done something new today. You've learned something new today. That's the beauty of it. But after a year, as I said, there were areas I was still learning, but majority of it became, something very monotonous, something which wasn't, as a creative, I would feel there were better opportunities, there were better possibilities, but my producers, company founders, they were not inclined to do simply because there was more money in that regular stuff that was happening. And that kind of disconnected. I still continued because I wanted to learn as much as possible. So I again continued for a year and a half. But then when I thought the time is right for me to move further, that is when I kind of left this production house and started my own.
Did you start with weddings, if I'm correct?
No.
Okay.
That came in very late.
So what did you start with?
So I first of all thought because I was given promotions every 6 months, I thought मैं बहुत अच्छा हो गया हूँ, इस level पे हो गया हूँ, because I was kind of a producer director. I was producing these regular content, but I was producing like 300 episodes
For TV.
for TV. They were national television content. Whatever we were delivering, it was for Z. So Z would probably at that time had the best broadcasting setup. When I left that company, I was in that zone that I'm going to take my own sweet time and join the channel, which I believe will help me learn more, further my skills. That was the only thought I had. There was this platform which started with, producing how-to content. So I started doing that. They used to pay us $20 per video. So I used to send 40, 50 videos.
First of all, how on earth did you get this idea?
Huh.
And secondly, how on earth did you find someone who is willing to go along with this crazy idea and give you money for it?
So this was out in the open. ये company जो थी US की, they were just requesting everyone to come up with ideas of how to. You know, how to do this, how to fix your tire, how to, set your wardrobe, how to play cricket, how to...
How did you find them?
So one of our friends from the production house, he once mentioned this to me that, you can make little money on the side. And it wasn't little then. Yeah, $20, I would end up making what, 40 odd videos. So us hisab se. So I would made somewhere around 3 to 400 videos. And then, that was it. I was making decent money. At that time, this was enough for me. And uske baad, there came an opportunity where specifically my mother said that, you should take this seriously, get a space for yourself as an office and start working. So I got this small office space and I started pitching to the channels. Whatever network I had developed over those years, I started, reaching out to them and then started pitching to corporates. So I was lucky then to, actually find someone who was sitting in Canada, an Indian guy. I met him again through one of my, jobs that I was doing, one of the companies I was working for. And he reached out and he said, look, I can offer you editing services to begin with. And it continued for good. Work started flowing in. Then decent brands, started coming in, reaching out to us. I reached out to many people, telling them that I exist. We have a small setup. We can produce video content. And slowly and steadily, while I was working with other people also, because for filming, I would hire someone, or voiceover, I would hire someone. These people knew that I was providing these services. So they would recommend as and when they would, get a lead or a query from someone. So yeah, this is how I started growing, getting little work. The only challenge was there was no Google to reach out to, so there was no way I could talk about it. It was always one to one. So all the business that I could generate, which was obviously very slow, but we were always busy. It's just that it was just two of us. One was always on the edit. I was always just reaching out and just sitting idle. These were the only two things I could do. So good 12, 15 hours a day I used to spend in the office, and it continued.
How do you feel today about what you could have done differently so that it wouldn't have led to so many problems down the road?
The issue I see and the problems which I feel majority of the people do is they don't spend enough time in doing what they do, in the sense that, see, we if we continue doing something which is worth our efforts and there is a market for it for at least a decade, there'll always come a tipping point. There'll always come a point wherein you will start generating business, you will start generating work. होता ये है कि हम या तो बोर हो जाते हैं या हम बेटर अपॉर्चुनिटीज के लिए अपना लाइन बदल लेते हैं. So we are still in the same industry, but we may change, our course. Say if I would have stuck for corporates and television, maybe just television till date, I feel that in these 13 odd years of my journey after that, I probably would have been producing much bigger television shows, maybe documentaries, maybe, all these series on Netflix, Amazon, Hotstar. You never know, because I was part of that initial setup. When few of my friends I know of are, are participants, are active players in these series right now. So if I would have continued, maybe as a producer, maybe as a company which I started, would be producing such content. 10 साल देने बहुत ज़रूरी होते हैं किसी भी फॉर्म को, और ये प्रैक्टिकली करेक्ट भी है. मतलब आप कोई भी चीज़ लाइफ में करते हो ना, आप फाइनेंसेस भी करते हो, आप इन्वेस्टमेंट्स भी करते हो, 10 साल लेके चलो. 10 साल ऐसे निकल जाते हैं कि आपको पता भी नहीं चलता. यू फील के यार, I need something in next 2 years. The problem right now, which personally I'm also a part of, say Gen Z है, कुछ भी है, everybody's after instant gratification या immediate. अगर मैंने 10 रुपये डाले हैं तो मुझे अभी 20 बनाने हैं. पहले ऐसा नहीं था, ठीक है. लेकिन अब बिकॉज हम भी इसी कल्चर में हैं, हम ही उसी दौर में हैं, वी आर ऑल्सो मेकिंग द सेम मिस्टेक्स. सो माई एडवाइस इज दैट, एंड विच आई हैव स्टार्टेड वर्किंग ऑन lately, is I've got to put in 10 years, hard 10 years, to ensure that, I reach that tipping point where my business generates so much of work so much of revenue that, see, they say, to become a master, you got to put in 10,000 hours and you become a master at that, whatever skill you're doing. Same way. So that is one thing. When you keep doing this stuff over a good period of time, you obviously will make mistakes. See, making mistakes, failures is not an achievement. A lot of people get this wrong personally. Reflecting from those mistakes, reflecting from those failures, and then correcting it, or maybe thinking of another way to do it, is actually something that one needs to implement. A lot of people give credit to failures. Failures आपने नहीं करे हैं, आपसे हुए हैं. There's a huge difference. So it's not an achievement. कितने लोग हम जानते हैं जो फेल ही हो रहे हैं, आज भी फेल ही हो रहे हैं, आगे भी फेल ही होंगे. That is, it's nothing. Everyone will fail. Every individual has been failing all his life. Everyone. Think of any life you're fascinated with has failed in some or the other way. People you actually look up to are the ones who have reflected on their failures, analyzed, learned, and then implemented a step different from what they did last time, which has worked. Or it may not, it may have not. Then also, again, they reflected back, again, they reworked on it, and again, they implemented another step.
And that's why you were saying 10,000 hours.
Correct. So, if you stay long enough, you will eventually end up learning every skill. See, if you want to survive, if you want to stay long, you're already surviving. You're surviving because you're doing something or the other correct. And because you're doing something or the other correct, you're also putting in effort on departments where you're lagging skills.
What percentage of your success do you believe came from your craft, though?
So I've kind of put in 16 good years. Whatever I know, even while I was sitting idle in my office, I remember I used to study something or the other about filmmaking, technology related to filmmaking. And I watched so much of good content in terms of films. Again, not YouTube, feature films from different genres, from different countries. I personally feel right now that I have so much of ideas in my head right now that if someone comes to me that I want to do something, say I want to sell this product of mine, I, as a producer, can come up with 4-5 ideas immediately.
Right. But someone has to come to you with that question, right?
Right.
So I'm saying, looking back, the success that you did get, what percentage of that do you feel was because of your filmmaking ability, and what was other stuff, let's call it?
See, if you stay long enough in anything that you're doing, you'll end up learning a lot of stuff. When you start your own, you generally have to ensure कि आपके overheads ना हो. ठीक है? Anyone who enters business at whatever stage in life initially has to ensure कि overheads ना हो. First, you have to generate business. तो होता क्या है that you personally have to get into everything. And if we particularly stick to filmmaking or video producer, being, producing content for whatever businesses, corporates, brands, आप ही को क्लाइंट को रीच आउट करना है, आप ही को मार्केटिंग करनी है, आप ही को सेल्स करनी है, आप ही को शूट प्लान करना है, स्क्रिप्ट प्लान करनी है, क्लाइंट को रिकमेंडेशंस देनी है रिगार्डिंग द शूट पे जाना है. कुछ एरियाज में इफ़ यू हैव द स्किल यू कैन शूट इट योरसेल्फ, एंड आप ही को एडिट पे बैठना है, आप ही को चेंजेस देखने हैं, आप ही को डिलीवर करना है.
Were you given any sort of education, or did you just learn through experience? Didn't you get overwhelmed?
Overwhelmed, yes, at times. Any human would. I was also enjoying this journey. This was the first time I was like getting so much of so I was handling so many departments, right? I was actually feeling like a business runner. I was actually feeling like a filmmaker. I was actually enjoying. So everything was happening, right? And again, I was surrounded by 20-25 people every day, which were missing in my earlier years. There were hardly interactions. So, you would always enjoy, something or the other. Someone would crack a joke. Some would act funny. There were always stories. So you're sitting with your team even for 15 hours. Things will keep happening. There are small, good sharings, golden nuggets, jokes, stories, which will keep your day, going on. So, yeah.
Did you ever have to make difficult decisions as a business owner? Like when you had to, let's say, let go of someone because they weren't doing their job well or they were insubordinate or something?
Several times. Several times. And everyone does.
Hmm.
That's the hardest part. See, managing people is a skill.
Hmm.
It's a skill which either you are tuned with in the sense that you've always had that temperament, or you learn it over the years.
Hmm.
With me, I've learned it over the years. And till date, I'm learning. It's not something that I would say I'm very good at. I'm still learning. But that's a skill one should have if they really want a bigger team. But you'll learn. And you'll only survive if you've been able to generate some revenue as a businessman, as a filmmaker. Otherwise, आप नहीं कर पाओगे.
Do you see filmmakers who don't survive?
A lot of them, yeah.
And where do you think they fail?
Say again, they're not willing to learn other skills associated with filmmaking. Filmmaking, again, I'll say, is not something you can do it alone all your life. If you're doing it, perfect. Don't expect money. Okay? Don't expect, a company, a business. If you want that also, then it has to be a teamwork.
Hmm.
But for all the people who start this journey on their own, they eventually have to learn everything in relation to it. And it's not for our industry, yeah. It's for every industry. Every solopreneur out there will start, learn, adapt, keep implementing. And then once a time comes when he has so much of work or he's unable to do the task rightfully, he will start delegating it. He needs to delegate. If he doesn't delegate, then also it's a problem.
Let me ask you this. If someone has to ultimately delegate it, then why bother learning the skills in the first place? Why not just delegate it and focus on your craft?
करेक्ट. सो इसके दो रीजंस हैं. पहला रीजन ये है कि इफ यू हैव द मनी टू डेलीगेट इट टू समवन हु हैज मोर नॉलेज ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर स्किल, देन डू इट.
Okay.
Again, coming back to what I said was, if we are starting out as individuals without much of money involved, then it's always important that you learn so that whosoever you're delegating it, that person is not someone who's probably had a lot of experience. He's someone who has little experience or is a fresher. So you personally have invested more time in that craft and you will be able to guide your way to him to get better results. Else he's also learning the same skill in the real world
At your expense.
at your expense.
Hmm.
So, why do that? Plus, देखो, knowledge कभी वो कहते हैं ना खराब नहीं जाती है. आप कोई भी चीज़ है, आपकी नॉलेज कभी खराब नहीं जाएगी. हमेशा किसी न किसी फॉर्म में आपकी हेल्प करेगी. If you really don't know your accounting, if you really don't know your client, your marketing, then you'll suffer in some way or the other. You'll actually suffer because just staying a filmmaker and then hiring people, you're not hiring the best. If you're hiring the best, then also I believe you should at least have little knowledge, little insights about their departments, their skills, so that you know what is happening in your team. Because end of the day, you are responsible for the output. You are running the show.
So you're saying those filmmakers who don't survive are the ones who don't pick up these skills?
See, they may have their personal reasons to leave filmmaking. Maybe they're not making money. Maybe, unfortunately, they don't have the liberty of time with them. Family pressure है या कुछ और pressure है या health reasons भी होते हैं. Filmmaking is not something 9 to 5. You go to odd places, you work odd hours. At times you're just working. As I said, there was a time when I stretched myself for 7 continuous days and I was enjoying it. If today someone would ask me to stay overnight, work, I will not. I will not be. Not that I don't want to, but I know my body will hurt the following day. So, if you have that opportunity, learn the craft. With these filmmakers, this can be a reason. Apart from that, what I said is a prime reason for everyone not able to make it as a video producer or a filmmaker.
Speaking of teams, managing teams, someone's a fine artist, let's say a painter. Then all they have to do is paint essentially and their product is ready. But with filmmaking, that's not the case. You have to have different people doing different things. You'll have a editor, you'll have a colorist maybe, you'll have someone who's a DP, someone who's a line producer, art director, set designer, actor or talent. You'll have someone who's a location supervisor and all of that, someone who's an audio engineer, someone who'll actually record the audio for you. So how does someone who's an aspiring filmmaker actually get to become a filmmaker if they aren't surrounded by people who can help them? These people won't work for free. You have to offer them some kind of incentive to do it for you, whether financial or otherwise.
See, you need to understand one thing. One is you want to be a part of the film, actively involved in film production. And you pick up a skill. You either want to be an editor or a DP or a production guy or a writer. Okay. Then what you do is you learn on the job. You have to work under someone, understand everything about that skill, work in real world, work on real projects, and you learn. But if you directly want to be a filmmaker, then you have to learn every aspect of it, do it yourself till the time you can afford having a team for whatever areas you want it to be. This is one thing. Second, you need to understand what category of videos do you want to create. See, if you want to do a feature film, you cannot do it alone. Okay? Even if you end up creating something, you need a distributor, right? If you want to do a documentary, you can do it on your own. Absolutely on your own. But again, you first have to understand if there's a market for it. You're just doing it for yourself. If you want to reach out to someone, so everything has to be planned out, mapped out better before you before you go into production. Someone who's starting out as a filmmaker first has to identify what kind of filmmaker he wants to be. And does he really want to be a filmmaker? Because a filmmaker has to know how to write, how to shoot, how to edit. These are all the hows he has to answer himself. And he has to start alone. This journey is mostly alone when you start. As you start developing and getting better at it and you start generating revenue, is wherein you find the right team members and, develop a team.
Understood. So it's almost like growing it literally like a business.
Yes.
You keep your costs low in the beginning,
Hmm.
and as and when you get more success and access to resources, is when you can actually start doing more things.
Correct.
Okay.
See, let me tell you this. This is what I believe.
Mhm.
Okay. I've not read it anywhere या किसी podcast में सुना ऐसा नहीं है. Art was never created, designed, or was meant to sell. Okay. This was done. Art was always something which one did for creation purposes. All of us are creatives. ठीक है? Art is nothing but creating something with a skill you have. Right? आप ये ग्लास को किसी शेप में बनाओगे, it's an art. एक शेफ कुछ बनाता है, it's an art for him. Every person cannot do it. So it's called art. जब आर्ट शुरू में होनी शुरू हुई थी, जब भी शुरू हुई थी, it was हमेशा for a purpose other than selling it. But because the need came in to, make a living, and someone who was inclined towards doing something like this or was good at it started selling it. Filmmaking, again, is a skill. So when you're doing it now, you have to first understand, talk to yourself, talk within. You're doing it purely out of passion, purely out of the need to create something, or you're doing it to sell and make money, livelihood out of it. Those two are very different things. One is not making money for you. You're just creating it. Even if you don't put it out there, you're just creating it. You putting it out there is because you want acknowledgement, you want whatever fame or success, being told that you're a good artist. That's the second thing. And the third is you clearly know that you have to make money and you work backwards. What should I create basis on the skill I have of filmmaking that would help me make this money? Simple. So one has to be very clear. See, wait, I always say this, and it's a very beautiful quote. Aapko clarity, you need to have clarity and relevance. If you have clarity of what you need to do and it is relevant to your environment, it'll be a success. Otherwise, there are high chances of it being a failure.
You got married.
Yes.
And you have a child.
Yes.
What's it like being a creative with responsibilities?
See, all of us eventually end up having responsibilities. Someone born in...
Speak for yourself, buddy.
No, but honestly, आपको इवेंचुअली अपनी लाइफ की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी लेनी ही पड़ती है ना. तो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज तो आनी है, ठीक है. अब यार ये रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज नहीं है, इट्स अ सर्कल ऑफ लाइफ. यू नो, यू आर born in this world. Majority, 90% of the things you do has already been planned by the society, and 10% is what, again, the percentage is not very precise, but just to put things in perspective, 10% is something which you actually get to do on yourself. So getting married was my choice. I obviously incurred some responsibilities, but so did my partner. But उसके बाद जो मुझे फ़ायदे मिले हैं वो भी बहुत हैं. Then having a child again was out of choice. ठीक है ना, राह चलते किसी ने बोला कि हमारा बच्चा संभाल लो, right? As a human, it is, to me, it is one of the most beautiful feelings. After I had my daughter, as a filmmaker, personally, I have grown. How? See, filmmaking is nothing but observation of life, observation of your surroundings. You observe and then you interpret into a visual form. तो वो जब आप ये milestones अपनी लाइफ में करते हो ना, you learn, you grow as a human, and then obviously when you create stories around it, you have a better insight. Because मैं कोई abstract illustrations की बात ही नहीं कर रहा हूँ, मैं वो बात कर रहा हूँ जो एक relatable content हो. और वो relatable कैसे होगा अगर मैंने खुद ही experience नहीं किया है. So either मैं खुद उसका stakeholder बन जाऊँ या मैं उसका ऑब्जर्वर बन जाऊं. इन दिस केस आई एम बोथ. सो आई टेंड टू बिलीव कि मेरा जो शेयरिंग होगा वो ज्यादा स्ट्रांग होगा.
आई एग्री
कि भाई हैविंग अ वाइफ, इफ आई हैव समथिंग व्हिच आई नीड टू पुट ऑन स्क्रीन एंड इट हैज इन्वॉल्व्ड अ स्पाउस, देन आई एम प्रॉब्ली मोर करेक्ट कंपेयर टू समवन हु डजंट. पॉसिबिलिटी मेरी ज्यादा बिकॉज आई एम एक्सपीरियंसिंग इट. Right?
I'm very grateful that you could find time to come here and shoot this podcast with us.
No, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure.